The last thing you want to hear when you need your auto insurance most is a robot with countless irrelevant menu options. Which is why with USAA Auto Insurance, you'll get great service that is easy and reliable, all at the touch of a button. Get a quote today. Restrictions apply.
USAA. This episode is brought to you by Indeed. When your computer breaks, you don't wait for it to magically start working again. You fix the problem. So why wait to hire the people your company desperately needs? Use Indeed's sponsored jobs to hire top talent fast. And even better, you only pay for results. There's no need to wait. Speed up your hiring with a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
Turning the AeroPress into a global phenomenon. And trust me, saying the word phenomenon is just as hard when you read. The humble AeroPress we all know and love today is incredible, but there was a problem when it first launched. No one knew how to use it. So, in 2008, a small group of friends in Oslo decided to figure out the best way they knew how, by turning it into a competition. What started as a light-hearted challenge quickly became something much bigger, the World AeroPress Championship. Fast forward 17 years, and what began as a quirky event has grown into a global phenomenon with over 60 national competitions held annually. What makes this competition special? It never took itself too seriously. It was always about fun, community, and creativity. Now, run out of Melbourne, Australia, we're joined by the man who organises all of it, who runs it. A seasoned coffee pro, has worked alongside James Hoffmann at Square Mile, founded Fieldwork Coffee, and continues to shape the industry. Welcome to the show, Tim Williams.
Woo! Thank you.
Oh my gosh, this is going to be a great bloody pod. And as always, you've got your host here, Rowan Cook, and I'm joined by...
Sonam Sherpa. I'm back again, 2 weeks in a row.
And it's just coffee!
I thought we were going to introduce Liam. Sorry.
And producing the pod as we always have, Liam. And of course, today's show is brought to you by our great sponsors at Eco Barista and Apex Labs. Today's episode is brought to you by our amazing sponsors at Eco Barista. The reason I sound like this is because they got massages at our stand at Mice, and so I'm getting a massage while recording this message for you. They're the best sponsor of the pod that we could have had. They have the best eco products. This probably sounds really pornographic, but it's not. I'm just getting a massage. They have the best eco-friendly coffee products. They got coffee bags that you can design yourself. They got cups. They got iced coffee cups. They got everything you need. So make sure to support them because they support us. Head to ecobarista.com.au and get 15% off your first purchase when you sign up. Oh, mama, that's good. All right. Now, Sonam, we've got you on the show today. You actually know Tim. You go way back. Can you give us a little bit of a background on this?
About 20 years ago, I was in London, probably about 20 kilos lighter, a lot more hair on my head. I'd just pretty much been fired from a job on Brick Lane, and I walked up to this Australian-ish cafe called Climson & Sons on Broadway Market, and Tim gave me a job. I got to work under him, got to learn a lot about coffee, had a great time. And you know where Climson & Sons is now? It's quite a well-known roaster. It's huge, yeah. So it's got a spot in the Spitalfields market as well. But I was lucky enough to be adjacent, like flat white, essentially, by being at Climson's. It was probably the second best coffee at the time, yeah?
Second or third.
Second or third? That's pretty good.
Yep.
Yeah, it was pretty good, like at one point in my life.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to start with a couple of word association games.
Here we go.
From our time.
Here we go.
First one, Monsoon Malabar.
Oh God, we thought that was good. Yeah, we thought that was.
What is that?
It's the coffee we'll use. I'll let Tim describe what it is.
Monsoon Malabar is basically an affected coffee. So the idea is that coffee used to be transported on boats and it often sit on the outside of the ship. And particular coffee coming on a particular route would be subject to like typhoon, winds and water, and it would it'd basically get fucked up. It'd basically get ruined. But it had this particular characteristic of like mustiness and dusty and earthy and mushroomy. And the coffee was known to be monsooned. So
it's like a peated scotch.
Yes.
It's like turn it into a sales pitch.
Except gross, yeah. And at the time, a long time ago, we considered that to be very interesting and very delicious, and we were excited about
Can you
that.
remember the brew recipes?
Oh, God. No. It was almost...
Create a cyclone in the V60, whirl around.
V60s weren't on the agenda at all. Everything was through a clapped out Lamazocco Linear 3 group that I had repaired myself. And God, it was put as much coffee as you can in the basket, as much coffee spread around the grinder on the bench as well.
And naked portafilters to make it really hard.
Naked, no.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I used to do we had like the little clapper
the
grinder where you'd pull the lever to there'd be all this coffee grounds built up. You'd just smash it into the puck was overflowing. Then you'd take it above and I'd get a knife and I'd chop along the top and then just brush it back into the grinder to use again.
Yep.
And that was how to create the perfect dose of coffee.
At Flat White, we would take the portafilter, load it up, and then tap it on collapse it on the dosing
chamber,
or whatever. And at one point, the dosing chamber started to come away from the body of the grinder, and the grinder body just filled with ground coffee to the point where it was like a brick of ground coffee inside.
We lived through some great times back then. Just all the stuff we used to do.
And the best way to mask it was a website called Rate My Rosetta.
Oh, God, I have not thought about that in a long time.
Oh, my God, that's real? I thought you were just throwing that.
No, that is a real thing, yeah.
I wasn't quite capable, so quite often I would go with the bhaji.
The onion bhaji, yeah. Yes. Rate My Rosetta has not danced around in my brain for a very long time.
Is the metadata still there?
I have no idea. Well, I'm sure we could.
All right, now I need your permission on something. We like to start off the show with a little bit of coffee news. Can we do that?
Do it.
Oh, yes, please. Play us through. Now, coming in this week, we have some big news that our co-host Sonam Sherpa is going to take you through. Please let us know.
Yeah, this is straight from Business Insider, which is behind a paywall, so I got what I could. Starbucks offshore. A recent report suggests Starbucks used a Swiss subsidiary to book $1.3 billion in profit, potentially reducing its tax bill in other countries, highlighting the company's use of a shell company to avoid taxes. Huge.
Interesting.
We already had the news the other week about all the layoffs and the CEO making like $94 million a year. And now you got shell companies doing tax write-offs overseas.
They've been on the hook for this for a very long time, actually. Yep. I think like 10 years ago, again.
2015-ish,
Yeah, I was in London. It was a Friday afternoon. We were doing roaster maintenance. I was covered in roaster schmutz and stuff, and we got a phone call because Channel 4 News Studio was just up the road, and they were running a story on Starbucks' dodgy tax
evasion.
Issues. Yeah, and they wanted us to come and be on the news in like 40 minutes. So I borrowed a shirt, ran up to the studio, sat down, got makeup done, and went live on the news with them. And I had 2 lines that I had in my head, and I didn't want to use them all up at once. So I said the first one, and they cut to the other people on the panel, and they ended the segment, and I never got to say my good line.
Well, here's your moment now.
Oh, should we do it now?
You have your moment. We're replaying it back. Go for it. It's all you.
My line at the time was going to be, well, now everybody knows from a tax purpose what we knew from a flavour perspective for a very long time.
Very good.
And I never got to do it. So,
yeah.
I mean, $1.3 billion is a lot of money.
I know, and I'm such a layman with all this kind of stuff, but it's just, again and again you say it. The most annoying thing is the people who can be paying tax and can afford it and have the money to do it are the ones that get off with the most.
They get off with the highest number for sure. But, I mean, let's also not pretend that the Melbourne coffee industry hasn't been completely based on cash payments, paying staff under the table, that kind of thing. Like the foundation of all the coffee brands that we look up to these days, like they all got their start with cash in hand work.
Yep.
There's probably more than 1.3 billion that's transacted under the table in Melbourne coffee to get going.
The amount of public holidays I would have worked and not got double pay.
Oh, absolutely.
It still happens now.
But do you think that's one of the reasons why in Australia it's so hard now to try to keep up with, not just coffee prices and all those things? Like, do you think this change of doing it by the books is just making everyone struggle?
It's definitely a lot harder to operate than it was when you could just pull someone in and give them $13 out of the till, or $13 an hour out of the till at the end of the day, and declare, 15 to 20% of your takings to the tax department and buy all of your supplies in cash. But, you know, like, I mean, I just think it's like a similar situation applies to Starbucks as applies to so many operators. And it's not just Melbourne, it's other cities around the world as well. But people are going to try and get away with what they can get away with. And if there's no actual deterrent in place,
Or reprimand.
they're going to keep doing it. Yeah, absolutely.
I remember fruit picking. I remember fruit picking as a 19-year-old. It was all cash in hand. And it was just like, you work so hard to make all that, like to make that money. And it's just cash, here you go. They're undeclared.
Absolutely.
No insurance. If you'd have fallen off the ladder, who cares?
You're done.
Yeah.
You were never there.
Any industry can, exploit someone.
For sure. Absolutely.
All right, the first question that we ask everyone on the show is, what's your go-to coffee order?
It goes by different names, but it's a single espresso and a single flat white. Or a single
what
milk
name
cream.
do you go by?
In the shop, we call it a 1-on-1.
Yeah.
And it's funny, I just looked it out. It's like an off-menu item for us in our shops. And anyone can order it. And it's a 1-on-1. We actually charge less than we charge for a single flat white. So,
there you go. Well, there's the bargain.
Great businessmen.
It's
we're
like
not.
the insider knowledge. It's like, if you know to order this, then you're getting a bargain here.
It's the behaviour we want to encourage.
Now, I also know it as the barista breakfast.
I think that's with a
with
Marlboro light on the side as well. Or something. But yeah, along those lines.
We've evolved. It's 2025. The Marlboro light's out the window.
Yes, that's true.
And also a Biggie Smalls. The classic. Because you get the Biggie and you get the Smalls.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was Biggie Smalls there for a while.
Okay.
Yeah.
We also call it a sidecar.
Sidecar's good.
Duet.
Yeah.
And
Which I've also had the sidecar in the States is used as the little sparkling water that goes with it. So there's like the double. But yeah, sidecar's a good one for it.
yeah.
But for those who are listening, if you're into coffee, if you're, just an enthusiast that goes to cafes, go and order this one. Because when you order something like this, the barista's going to be like, oh yeah, this guy knows. And even though it shouldn't be this way and places would be great, when the barista gets an order that the order from whatever it is says, I know coffee, they're going to put more effort into it. And they're going to be more like worried about whether they steam it perfectly, extract it perfectly, because they're like, oh, this guy must be into coffee. I better do my best job.
Hopefully. Yeah, I don't know that works out every time, unfortunately. But look, for me, it's like I don't want too much caffeine. I also think like that really like strong, high ratio of espresso to milk in a small cup to me is like too much, too metallic. And so it's a shop's default to do a double shot into a flat white, just move the cup over, put the demi-tasse to catch the other shot, and you've got a really beautiful thing. Just unfortunately, these days they move the cups and now it's $13 instead of $6, which is unfortunate. But paying for coffee is still something we should be doing. So
Absolutely.
Yeah. And Freddie tight asses, don't ask anyone to price match Tim, please.
None of that. Right, we're here to talk about the AeroPress World Championship. But the first thing, for the listeners at home that might not be familiar, can you just run us through the AeroPress? What makes it unique as a brewer?
Yeah, I can. The AeroPress is a very simple brewer in a lot of ways. There's only 3 pieces to it. There's a filter holder where you place a paper filter or cloth or metal. There's a brewing chamber, which is where you put your ground coffee and hot water. And there's a plunger that pushes the ground coffee and the hot water, also pushes the brewed coffee through the filter to clean it up so you get a very clean cup. A lot of brewers do that. What I really like about the AeroPress is that there's a whole bunch of different variables that you can control really deliberately and really intentionally. So your brew time, the agitation, how fine or coarse you grind, water temperature, dilution, all these sort of things. It's not really guesswork. You go into it with a recipe and you can deliver it. And I think that's why it's a unique brewer in a lot of ways. And I think a brewer that really like on one hand tests and on the other hand like rewards brewing ability. So yeah.
And is it kind of like a mix of the 2 main methods that we know? We know immersion, which is when you just add water to coffee and it just sits in the water, the coffee just sits, and then percolation where you kind of push, the water flows through a bed of coffee. So it kind of feels like it's merging both of those worlds together, right? Like you use immersion at the start so it sits, brews, and then you push it through with this vacuum seal for it to pass through the bed of coffee.
That's it. Yeah, it's a filtered immersion brewer, I would say. Yeah,
And you can invert it. The orientation, there's multiple ways to approach this thing as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And you would have noticed Hario just recently introduced that stopper as well on their V60. Have you seen that one?
Yeah, it's like a
gasket.
Yes. Yeah.
It's like a little marble.
Yeah,
it's just a little ball that like pops up and down.
So that's probably based on the success of that, really, when you think about it.
Possibly. Or like the Clever Dripper as well is another brewer
classic.
that is immersion that runs through a filter. And for me, like a lot of the new zero bypass brewers, like the Tricolate, similar idea. It's very even when you're using immersion brewing. You're not like manipulating a small amount of dry coffee with a small amount of water. You're really getting everything in together. But then it gets really nicely cleaned up because there's nothing worse than that, like
sludge.
The gritty texture, really off-putting.
We had Jamie Thompson do a video on it on our channel, and it was used in a few of the Brewers Cup Championships as well, where people were kind of using that a little bit of water pass through, then like stop and let it use immersion to kind of go, or the other way around, sorry.
Yep.
But it was making some great coffees, making some really good stuff, kind of blending the two together.
Yeah.
My go-to camping apparatus, easily, the AeroPress. Yeah.
This is what I hear a lot. Yeah. I don't camp.
Not yet.
No, I don't camp.
It's the weirdest, it's the best experience you can have because you can make the best quality coffee in the easiest way. Even if you had some like pre-ground coffee and just like a scoop, you can still make a really good filter coffee out of this. So when you're out camping in the middle of nowhere and you're drinking a coffee that tastes like you're at one of the best cafes in the city, it's an unreal experience.
Yeah.
Highly recommend.
Yeah, and bonus points if you're heating up the kettle on the fire as well.
Yes, I could see that. Yeah, we spent a bit of our summer holiday in New Zealand on a boat, and I was there with manual coffee brewer ready to go. But when you're moving like this constantly, scales don't work, and you've got a pretty high risk of this thing falling over. So for those 5 days, we brewed French press coffee in the sink on the boat.
French press.
Yeah, it was safe. It was gritty. But the scenery made up for it.
Yeah. Now take us to the World AeroPress Championship. How does it run? How is it different? Can you just run through for our guests at home just the full process of it, of the event?
The competition itself is pretty straightforward. It's basically a knockout tournament. Every competitor gets the same coffee. They have an AeroPress and they've got 5 minutes to brew the best cup of coffee they can. When you've brewed your coffee, you put the cup of coffee forward in an unmarked vessel and a judging panel tastes the coffees in front of them. And on the count of 3, each judge points to the cup that they like the best.
I love that. So no score sheet, no long list of like what you said or did. It's just like that is the best tasting coffee.
There's no presentation element on the part of the barista. There's no ability to bring a nano lot washed in unicorn tears or whatever it might be that is going to be the coffee at $3,000 a kilo that's going to put you over the line. It's a test of how well you can take coffee beans, this like inanimate object in front of you, use the variables that you understand in brewing, use your palate to taste and adjust, and put the most incredible cup of coffee forward.
And what a great way to do it, obviously, as it started for a lot of people didn't know how to use it. So just a great way for the coffee community to share ideas, share methods, share how they're going to do it to kind of get the best results. And I think the coffee community needs more of that.
For sure, yeah. I mean, it's astonishing, even judging at the world level, how different your brew versus your brew might be. The using a simple device like the AeroPress to like take coffee into a particular direction that you, whether right or wrong, think is the right direction to take that coffee. It's really remarkable, just the wide range that gets showcased.
And do you think it's like symptomatic of the society or the culture around it, and it reflects that coffee culture within those regions? The different approaches, that is?
I think with the prevalence of social media and the way we've publicised recipes over the last 17 years, I think you can get above kind of local preferences. I think the local preferences tend to come down more into who's roasting the coffee. And we've been at, different events around the world where, for me, the coffee is like so dark. It's like almost undrinkable, but locally
that's just what
delicious,
it is. Yeah.
And then similarly, we take our coffee along and they're like, when are you going to roast it? I think that those preferences tend to come down more into the coffee itself.
Yep.
But really, I think like brewing techniques, everyone can they're a lot easier to
share
them for sure.
So you were just saying that you think that it's so crazy to see how different the brews can be from person to person. We had someone, and sorry, excuse me, I can't remember who it was. I think it was during Dubai. We had someone on the pod who was chatting with Kirk, and they were talking about how they think that they should remove this round from like the Brewers Cup.
Okay.
Because
I think that was Ben Putt.
Yeah, Ben Putt was kind of saying his thought is like, I've been told a general AeroPress recipe or whatever V60 recipe by a pro, and pretty much if you use that, you're going to score really, really well. But it feels like you're kind of saying the opposite. There's still so much variable from like person to person.
Hugely different. Yeah. And I think you can go back into the footage of Ben Putt judging in the World Finals in Canada
He's putting him on blast.
See how long the judges had to take to work out which one was the best cup. There definitely are big differences.
Because Kirk was arguing that he was saying they should put the mandatory into the Barista Championship as well, that all of them should get the same coffee and the same thing and have to go in there because he thought it would be a great kind of equalizer.
I think the barista competition and Brewers Cup should keep doing what they're doing because it's working really well for us to have our format how it is.
Cherry picking,
Brewers Cup obviously came along after the World AeroPress Championship started and borrowed bits of it, but then wanted to take it in the World Coffee Events kind of direction, which I think is great, but it's like the World Coffee Events competitions are, they're big level, right? Yeah. Like that's all run under an umbrella of a multi-million-dollar operation. Shockingly, we're not. But what we wanted to focus on from probably about 10 years ago was putting the competitors' interests first, because we're such a small operation relative to, when you go to
ASCA,
absolutely,
yeah.
But we've managed to grow from a handful of people, 12, 13 years ago to over 6,000 competitors now in 65 countries because we wanted to make sure that our event was the one that people wanted to come back to and compete in again.
Oh, you were saying, we were just in Dubai, you were saying that like over there they have one in every emirate. And how many people are showing up to this thing?
Hundreds.
Hundreds.
Competing? And the Royal, hundreds competing. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
It's like 5 stages all going at the same time. So there's 5 sets of judges all judging at the same time. So I went over there a couple of years ago to help out and
observe,
do some emceeing and that kind of thing. And it's like, it's another world, and it's a whole other thing. It was actually our host in Dubai who really helped us to grow up a bit in how we approached the competition. We started in a pretty very relaxed kind of way. One time when we were in Seattle for the World Final, we had a spare spot in the World Final, just because of the way the rounds were structured. And so we said, well, whoever delivers a bottle of champagne to our hotel room first.
Wildcard entry.
Yeah, literally pay to play. We got every bottle of champagne from the hotel bar sent up to our room. And
success.
Save that one.
Sonam's like, right. Sonam's taking notes. Champagne to room.
Yeah. And it was funny because we always had this approach of like, well, if people don't like it, they can just go and do something else. Like, it's not that big a deal. Not to steal your tagline, but, we did say it's just the AeroPress competition. Like, it doesn't matter that much.
Yep.
And which you're launching a new podcast for AeroPress, right? It's just AeroPress.
Yeah, that's right. But, you know, our host in Dubai like pointed out to us, he's like, well, it's okay for you. You know, you have a career in coffee. You're already established. You're underway. You're doing what you want to do. But for the Filipino kid who's working in Dubai, you know, 6 days a week, sending all the money home, him winning the World AeroPress Championship or even just winning in Dubai, like that's life-changing. Like that's a stratospheric change in terms of their career outlook and, you know, literally how they can support their family. And that was like a bit of a
wake-up moment.
Kind of moment. Like, we need to take this a bit more seriously. And there have been so many of those moments, you know, once our eyes were opened a bit to that, that we just started taking it a little bit more seriously without sacrificing the fun of the event and it being a good time. So our guiding light, I run the AeroPress Championship alongside one other guy, Grant, who's based in Canada, and the guiding light that we have for probably 90% of our decision-making is that we want every competitor the day after they've competed in the World Championship, whether at the national level at the World Finals, whether they won, whether they lost, to wake up the next morning and go, fuck, I can't wait to do that again.
Yeah,
awesome.
And that cuts off a lot of sponsorship opportunities, I'll tell you that. But it has meant that we've been able to grow.
Yeah, I think the read I'm getting is that it's more of a bottom-up situation and it's grown with the people, it's grown with the community, whereas, you know, those other events are very top-down, it's very rigid, very structured, and it's also a lot of influence in terms of sponsorships and different things, whereas AeroPress is just AeroPress.
Yeah, look, we just know that the day that the competitors don't show up, then the next day the sponsors don't come back either. And the next, you know, the bottom falls out of things pretty quickly. So for us, making sure that community is well looked after and supported is it's the number one priority.
Yeah, and how do you do that?
Well, we got everyone together in Lisbon, all of our competitors last year, and at, you know, no small cost, made them think they were all getting together for a group photo just the day before the event. But we actually hired a massive sailing ship and took them all sailing along the river in Lisbon.
You're speaking Sonam's language.
Oh, there we go.
If you could
Guess
see
I'm taking up
Sonam's,
AeroPressing.
yeah. If you could see Sonam's knees right now, he's got
Yeah, I did some
giant
serious damage on my knees
scabs
last
on
couple
his
of
knee
weeks.
because he's been doing sailing classes.
Learning to sail, yeah.
No way.
Yeah, ducking the
Okay.
boom. It was 24 knots, so
Okay, that's
decent.
fast, yeah.
So I'm
Yep.
bobbing and weaving, but
Okay.
I was so locked in and the adrenaline was so high, I didn't take note that my knees kept scraping the surface. Yeah, not great.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
You brought up something interesting of talking about some moments that you felt like you needed to grow up along the way of doing this and kind of, you know, take it seriously. Can you take us back right to when it started? So Oslo, Tim Wendelboe's roastery. Tell us how it came about, and then maybe if there are some moments beyond what you just mentioned that kind of made you feel like, oh, this is going to the next level and we need to take action here.
yeah. I think the first thing to say is that I wasn't there
Yeah.
at the roastery in Oslo.
Yeah, two other Tims.
Two other Tims. So
What's with all the Tims in this organisation?
honestly, it is ridiculous. So
You also
Tim
have to be a
Wendelboe,
Tim to enter.
It helps.
Are they Timothy's or Tim's?
Or Timotheus.
Two of us were Timothy's, one was a Tim. The first two people who started the AeroPress Championship were both Tim. The guy who made all the custom AeroPresses, the different coloured painted ones, is Tim Messenger. The new AeroPress distributors, the brand manager and one of the company directors are both Tim.
my God.
So it's sort of Tim's all the way down, unfortunately.
And at the start, it was Tim Wendelboe and Tim Varney.
Correct.
Tim Varney, who,
Yeah.
you know, we've had on the show.
Yeah.
Great chat.
Yeah. So, yeah, look, it did start at the Tim Wendelboe roastery. Tim Wendelboe was a distributor of the product, and if you bought the product at the time, it had some instructions on the side of the packet as
I
to how
remember
to.
these.
And if you followed the instructions, you did not get a particularly good. It didn't taste great.
No, it's just a scoop.
It was a scoop. You know, it's like American instructions as well. They don't really use kettles. They just boil water in the microwave. You know, kind of weird stuff like that. So they did want to work out how to brew well on the AeroPress, and they figured, well, let's just have a little competition. There were only 3 competitors, and it was also a little bit of a jab at the Americans with the World Series baseball, which is like only open to teams from America.
NFL's the same.
Yeah, you know, it's like, let's call
Hey,
it
they
the
have a
World-
Canadian team, don't they? That's
Maybe
international,
one.
you know?
just. It's international for now. So
Canada is part of it. It's a great state of America. It's the greatest state.
So they wanted to, see who could brew the best cup of coffee.
Yep.
They did. They had a cake. That was it. They did it again the next year, and a few friends in neighbouring countries thought, well, is it all right if we do the same sort of thing? It just started to grow from there. So we're in England at the time, and we would host the English Championship. The company that I was running at the time, Workshop Coffee, we would get together with Square Mile Coffee and we'd do a blend. So they'd roast half of the coffee, we'd roast the other half, mix it together, and one side of the bag said Work Mile and the other side of the bag said Square Shop. And it was fun, and it just sort of was growing a little bit organically. And I was judging in 2014 at Rimini in Italy for the world final of the AeroPress Champs. Tim Varney was running it at the time, and he said to me, like, this is kind of costing me money every year now. Like, this is he's like, I'm just gonna shut this down. Like, it's too much work. It's actually taking money out of my pocket. So I said to him, like, I can see that. I think there's actually an opportunity in this. I think just by pulling a couple of levers, getting a little organised, maybe asking AeroPress for some money to start with, we might be able to.
Feels like a good door to knock on.
It feels like a good one, right?
Go, yeah.
So I thought that actually there was a model there that could make it a bit sustainable and then help to actually grow it to other parts of the world. So, that was 10 years ago last year. And for the last 10 years, we've just been working on building out that network and taking the event to more markets around the world.
Has Varney ever asked you for reparations or?
No, Tim did pretty well.
He did pretty well in the end?
He did okay.
Good on him.
Yeah.
Good to hear.
So
he's a bit of a martyr like that, like to run that at a loss for so long.
I don't think it was a big loss.
Okay.
I couldn't speak to how those finances were managed, but that's probably more a question for Tim.
Now, what are some of the most enjoyable moments from your time doing the World AeroPress Championship? Like, what are some of the moments that stand out for you?
Look, the most enjoyable aspect is getting to travel and to go to different events and be part of different coffee communities around the world, because I think it's like the best learning opportunity you can have in coffee is to actually go spend time somewhere else and see how other people do it. We're very insular in Melbourne and very proud of ourselves, and there is a lot to be proud of. And you know what? There's also a hell of a lot in other countries that even if you don't agree with how everyone does different coffee things, you can learn so much. You can reflect on your own thing. So just before coming here this afternoon, I'm booking a trip to Korea to go and visit some sites there and some people there. I think we're off to Japan as well. So that probably still remains like the number one most enjoyable aspect. It's like the hardest aspect now being based in Australia.
Oh man, it's horrible, isn't it?
But you know, we were in Europe a couple of times last year and Dubai the year before, and we just learned so much.
It's also pretty cool being able to ride that wave of the emergence of specialty in different regions as well. You know, I remember back when it was first starting off in Melbourne, also when it was starting off in London, and you were like, everything was so excited, everyone was so open, everybody's gates were wide open, and then all of a sudden paywalls start coming in the way, tribalism starts taking effect, and all of a sudden it's like, no, I work for there, I don't do this, I don't do that. Yeah. But then you see a new community where it's all starting and everyone's so fresh-faced. And
absolutely. I mean, the idea that Square Mile and Workshop would work together and do a blend and that sort of thing just wouldn't happen these days.
No.
I was just going to say that. My head's, when you said that, started racing where I'm like, we should do that here now. Like, what a fun way to open up the community if you just started like a little coffee company where month on month there was just two different roasters in Melbourne, Australia, whatever, who you just went like Golden Ali or whatever it was, or, you know, Rumble Lane, or whatever it is. Just take two roasters and get them to work together to create something from their knowledge and how they do it, and from the other roastery and how they do it. Because you can notice roastery to roastery that there are certain roasting traits that you see across pretty much their whole line and see it differently. So that already just got me excited, and what a cool idea.
Yeah, I think the idea of like cross-pollination is incredible, and in coffee we do not do it.
Yeah.
Like we go into other venues, we sneer at what they're doing or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
But, also in London days, I worked as a chef for a year or so, and there would be so many different chefs coming into stage in the kitchens. You'd be standing next to someone you didn't recognise and picking herbs and ask this dude, like, what's your story? And he's like, I work at a restaurant down the road and just here for the night and stuff. And then you find out that he's like the executive chef of Asia to Cuba. Like,
What technique are you using there? What's
literally,
that?
he brought in rendang that he made from home just so people could taste it and stuff. And, it doesn't happen in coffee. One of the things that we really wanted to do when we built our new roastery is make it open. And so anyone, you don't even have to come in and buy a cup of coffee to see what we're doing in the roastery. You can stand at the tram stop out the front.
Yeah.
There's no wall between the coffee shop and what we're doing on the roasting side. Like, our checklists are on the wall. You can look at the props to curves while we're roasting away. You can't imitate it. You can sort of like ape it a little bit, but you can't just...
I do encourage people to go visit Tim. It's an amazing shop. It's beautifully well set up. And it is a shop roaster situation. And like you said, there is no wall. Yeah, you can get total transparency. Someone who's emerging could learn from you. Absolutely.
And we have it all the time where people are standing there interested in what we're doing, and we'll talk them through what's going on. Like, it's no
What's the name of it again? Where can people find that? What's the
Fieldwork on St George's Road in North Fitzroy.
There you go. There you go. What is it called? Let me just look at this beautiful bag. Fieldwork. Okay, cool.
That's us.
Just making sure that we get that one down there.
Yeah.
Now, how many countries is it in now? 60, 65?
65 last year, and we're on track for 65 again this year.
Can it get bigger? What's the plan? How does it get bigger than where it is now?
It can, but it's hard. Look, I would say that there are lots of parts of the world that we aren't in that I would really like to be in, but the economics of the whole thing are a little bit limiting for countries that are less affluent. One of the reasons we've managed to grow it the way we did is and ensure a lot of participation is that if you're a competitor, you will pay a very small entry fee to compete, and you never pay another cent. If you win, your travel costs to the next level, if that's regionals to nationals or nationals to the worlds, travel, accommodation, everything is paid by your host, which is great for the competitors.
Incredible.
Yeah, it's very cool.
Incredible, especially for young baristas that might not have the opportunity to travel like that.
Yeah, but it does make it tough on those hosts then to be able to find $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 to cover travel costs to get their winner to the world. So at this point, there are still some countries we'd like to be in that we're not in, especially producing countries. But we're really open to it, and we look at every application.
As far as knockouts go, 64 is a much better number.
64 is good. Yeah, 64 is good.
Also a great Nintendo system.
Yes, it's true.
Yeah, GoldenEye. Great.
Yeah, we just work the round structures to make sure that we
make those numbers work.
We can make it work. Yeah.
But now I'm just going to ask, because I feel like here for like the Brewers Cup or for other competitions, the Barista Champs and all that, there's obviously such a high level, but it doesn't feel like that many people actually enter it. It feels like it's so high level that just everyone's like, well, I'm not touching that with a 10-foot pole. If you're a young barista and you're out there and you're wanting to enter the World AeroPress Championship, what are your tips? What's your advice?
My number one bit of advice has got nothing to do with brewing coffee, but it's to go in with an open mind and make personal connections. The people that do really badly are the people who walk in with their headphones on and their hoodie on, and they don't talk to anyone. They set up their little stand and they refuse to engage, and they're territorial about the practice space.
Keep 8-miling it. Just
yeah.
I feel like the best approach, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it could be like a 3-year strategy, right? Like if you kind of suck, just bite the bullet and go for it. But go in with an open mind of being like, I'm going to lose and I don't care. I'm going to throw this at the wall and see how it goes. And I'm going to talk to every competitor and chat to them about it. 2nd-year approach. Go in being like, I'm going to have more of a stab at this and still again connect. 3rd year, that's your winning year. Go in, win the competition.
Yeah. Look, It's a good strategy.
Yeah.
I look forward to seeing you.
We'll find out in
years 2 and
3 years.
Yeah.
Well, maybe I need to. Oh, should we get Liam? Maybe we get Liam, producer of the pod. Maybe that should be our 3-year project of getting him into the World AeroPress Championship.
Excellent.
I'm so down.
It'd be too embarrassing for me when I enter and come dead last. So.
Just throw me under.
The thing about the World AeroPress Championship is that there's this really beautiful safety net that if you do come last, you can just say, but it's all just a bit of fun.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And that's the thing. It's like you can't turn around at the end of the World Barista Championship if you place last and there's your cart polished within an inch of its life and the crystal cut glassware that you had specially made and, you know, the farmer that you flew to sit in the front row who you can't be like, well, it was just a laugh. There's a giveaway that that's not right.
Now, here's an interesting question. Have you or do you remember any moments? Has there been someone that's come in and they haven't really known what they're doing, but because they're all using the same coffee, they've just ground it, whacked it in, thrown some water in and actually performed really well?
Early on, before my time, I'm not sure if it was the second or third year, but there was a person who won the World Championship and it's, it wasn't against 6,000 people, it was against maybe 15. But she won because her boss entered her in the competition and gave her the AeroPress, which she'd never brewed on before, and said, I think you kind of use it like this. And she kind of used it like that. And she won.
That's awesome.
That was a little while ago, but yeah.
We had, I don't know if I'm outing us here, if this story is meant to go out, but Milk Lab hosts a competition called the Roaster Royale, where they want to see a roast that pairs really well with their like oat milk or whatever it is. They do this at Mice and they're doing it this year and you win like a trip to Origin, like all this money, huge, it's amazing.
10 grand, yeah.
Yeah.
It's huge.
But we entered, did not get through. And we spoke to the team that came, I think either second or third. We're like, oh, what was your approach? How did you do it? And they were like, oh, they sent us 5 different samples of coffee and we just roasted them all and put them equally in the bag and sent it in. And we're like, well, there you go.
Yeah. Well, so I'd be intrigued to know what the judging criteria was then. Yeah.
Sometimes the stuff just works. If it's 5 good coffees put in a bag, it's going to taste pretty good. Get that roast, especially when you're doing like oat milk or something, get the roast level right, you're doing well.
I was at a cupping in El Salvador at the end of a buying trip, and there was roasters or buyers from a whole bunch of different roasteries there, and this was with Gilberto Barona, who passed away actually during COVID, unfortunately. But we're at his house and we were cupping all of the coffees that we'd looked at on that trip, and it's a bit competitive and people had their elbows out, and there was one coffee that everybody loved, and it was the last coffee on the table. And as Gilberto was going through to sort of say, well, this was from this farm and this is from this one, this is from Los Pirineos, this is from here, everyone's like trying to get closer to the front to make sure they were in the right spot to seize this last magical coffee that everyone thought was the best on the table. And he talked about the second last coffee, and then he stopped and everyone's like, okay, what was the last one? He's like, oh no, that was just the ends of all the other trays. I just put them together. That was that one.
Oh, no.
Not available for sale, unfortunately.
Just buy them all. Just blend it.
That's it.
Just buy them all and blend it. You got the perfect coffee.
The funniest parts about the AeroPress Championship as well, early days, were the way that rumours used to spread.
Oh, okay. Talk to me.
Well, it'd be more like, apparently there was a guy who brewed with 80 degrees water.
Oh, yeah. There were people that brewed with 80-degree water.
Yeah, there was like all these different approaches. Like people were like, oh my God, we're going to change everything.
Yeah.
And then there was also the super high brew ratios that we were talking about earlier. What was the rationale behind all that?
Yeah, so for a little while, basically the doses, so how much ground coffee people were putting into the AeroPress, and there's a limited amount of water that you can put into the brewer, but people were putting more and more ground coffee in, and it got up to 30, 35 grams.
Well, because if you were to ask me, I would say 11, 12 grams normally for a
12
AeroPress.
to 200 would be a good ratio, and they were really going pretty crazy with it, and then they would bypass with plain water at the end, and basically they were under extracting pretty heavily, and then rebalancing to taste, and And I think it was more of a quirk of judging more than anything else, because if you're a judge at an AeroPress Championship, you're tasting 3 coffees per round, maybe 9 rounds in the initial phase. Like, there's a lot of coffee. So you tend to award wins to the coffees that are distinct and that are easier to tell apart. So if you've got a coffee that's high strength but a bit under extracted and diluted to balance and diluted with warm water as well, so it's a really palatable temperature, it's pretty easy to point at that one at the end. Ooh. So it became a real...
Even just getting a point of difference, like beyond all that, just being like, that tastes similar, and then, this one tastes different. Yeah. Right, bang.
Yeah. So we did have to...
Are you allowed to use any of these? Any minerals?
Yes. You are allowed to...
Sonam is holding up the Apex Lab droppers for those who aren't watching us.
Yeah. So minerals into the water is totally fine as long as the brewing water does not taste adulterated or like
so do you do a little taster test at the start just to check it?
If a judge comes around, or a head judge, and that's me, and I can be a real bastard about these things, comes around and wants to taste the water that you're going to brew with, and I'm like, it tastes like salt, or it tastes really
like
sweet,
strawberry bubble gum.
Yeah, exactly right. Then I'll say you can't brew with it.
Yeah,
you can make the choice. If you brew with it, you'll be disqualified, and if you would like to switch out for actual water, then you can. What you can't do, which we're just has come up this year, is you cannot take a mineral concentrate like Apex and add it to your brew at the end. And I know that's a way they market this particular product as like seasoning and adjusting. You can't do that in the AeroPress Championship.
Yep, fair enough.
Yeah, and I think they just do that as ease of use. Well, with an espresso machine because it needs to be added after because you can't put it through the machine. And then just with filter, it's like, just at the end, blah, blah.
For sure,
but, because then you start getting into all these like measurements when you're like, for 100 milliliters of brewing water, you need to put 0.1 blah, blah.
The main thing that we want to defend against there is like having to go around and taste everybody's eyedropper bottle, at every event around the world and be like, I think that one's got sugar in it, or I think that one's got honey in it. We did have an issue with people adding sugar to the coffee via the water.
But with just going back to the higher dose, so that's been stopped now. What are the rules now?
The rules are there's a maximum dose of 18 grams of coffee goes in there. Alan Adler, who was the inventor of the AeroPress back when he still ran the company, or he didn't really run the company. He had a business manager that ran the company. But when Alan was involved, he was very, very anti-high doses. He invented the AeroPress so that he didn't have to waste 10 grams of coffee.
Fill up to number 3, 1 scoop.
Microwave.
It's good.
Yeah,
microwave.
Exactly, I've had Alan brew me coffee on the AeroPress. And it's, I like
How was it?
Well, it was like you might imagine, but he liked it like that. Yeah. And that was okay.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Rude, but
At Golden Brown, our, tagline is coffee without the snob. It's like the best coffee in the world is whatever coffee you love. Now, I'm going to ask you to do us a bit of a favor here.
Do it.
Now, our listeners at home, they want to know, how do I make the best coffee? How do I make the best AeroPress? Are you able to show us just like a off-the-cuff recipe where you're like, just in general, this is a really solid, great recipe to use, and we can go through it and show our listeners, or audibly tell our listeners how to make it?
Well, we can tell them how I would make it, and
I'm going to say it's the best way in the world to make it. That's coming from my mouth. That's fine.
Yeah, I'm ineligible to compete. So,
do we also have a bit of an exclusive here? Do we have?
Well, I did bring in something that I think you probably wouldn't have seen yet.
I don't want to brew with this.
So,
look at this!
Whoa, what is that? You could just holy moly! Look at this thing.
So what I've brought in is the latest AeroPress, and this is actually a format that we've been asking AeroPress to develop for quite a long time, and they have finally done it.
Now let's lift that up.
I'll see if I can lift this up.
Wowza, look at this thing.
But I'm actually just going to cut you off right there, a bit of sizzle. We're going to be right back with this recipe, but first, a word from our sponsor. Elevate your coffee experience with Apex Lab Mineral Concentrates. Apex Labs' precision-engineered formulas, including tonic, jam, and lilac, are designed to enhance the coffee's natural flavors. Not going to change it, it's just going to enhance it. It's going to bring out the vibrant acidity, the rich sweetness, or if you use lilac, it might bring out those delicate floral notes that you've been looking for. Trusted by world-class cafes and even barista champions, Apex Lab helps you unlock your coffee's full potential. Discover more at apexlab.com. Wait, where was that again, Sonam?
The internet.
Oh, okay. Thought he was going to say the website. Thanks. Oh, abracadabra, we are back and we are ready to brew some coffee with the new AeroPress. And what coffee are we brewing today as well?
I can't remember which one you opened. I think it was the William Oliveira. Yeah. So coffee from Wheeler, Colombia. We can talk about it more later, but we only buy washed coffees. So this is a washed coffee and, a single producer lot. And this is actually the first time I've ever brewed on this brewer. It is coming out of the box.
So it's metal with a glass cylinder.
That's it. So it's a double wall glass chamber. This is a new AeroPress Premium. I don't know if it's available yet.
This thing looks like what Superman would brew with.
That's what I think, yeah. And
It's like kryptonite would be held in it.
I don't know if you can hear, but all the accoutrement is metal as well. And this was something that I'm missing a bit. Is there a filter cap?
Oh, it'll be in the
that
box.
This is something that we were asking AeroPress to make for a long time. There are a lot of venues. There we go. Thank you.
Look at that. Heavy duty.
Like
That thing belongs on a pasta extruder. That is.
yeah.
That's a great video.
Definitely a lot of venues who would want to serve AeroPress coffee but didn't want to be brewing on plastic, or it just didn't fit in with the aesthetic of their shops. So we did say for a number of years, it'd be really great. Perfect, thank you. If there was a higher spec AeroPress available. And I remember having conversations about it 8 years ago, something like that. And then not so long ago, it became reality. So,
it looks sexy as hell.
It does, doesn't it?
Not to throw us under the truck here with the question, but would you say brewing experience going to be the same as your plastic one? It's just the premium feel in that, or?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so. It is slightly narrower from what I can tell. It's sort of like taller and slightly more narrow. So if that changes the brewing spec a little bit, it maybe you could dose even lower actually and still get the extraction that you want. But I'll say we're about to find out.
I guess we'll go to the World AeroPress Championships and find out whether this device.
You cannot use this in the World AeroPress Championship,
it's too good
unfortunately.
for it.
No, so we're keeping it pretty straight down the line. You can only use the classic or the.
It's more diplomatic.
What about the Go? Is that what it's called?
You cannot use the Go either.
This is ridiculous. You know what? I'm over it now. I'm done with it.
We want to save ourselves some headroom to grow into and new divisions to come about. So,
to be fair, on the 8-year time frame, Tim, you've got the intersection of glass and metal here, and you've also got a tube or a cylinder that's going to be under high pressure with hot water.
Absolutely, yeah.
Sorry, just for the coffee nerd that wants to explain this. So run us through coffee, grind size, dose.
Coffee, washed coffee from Colombia. Should always use washed coffees.
We'll get back. I've got a question later up to that later. We'll get
He's
to
cooking.
We're using 15 grams. We're going to hopefully we get 250 grams of water into the brewer as well. So 15 to 250 is a really nice starting point.
Yep.
And I'm generally, we just sort of eyeball checked the grind size on this, but I'm going just slightly finer than we would go for our cupping grind. I think about cupping as being like a 4-minute brew time. We're probably going to brew this for 2 minutes, so a little finer, a little quicker extraction.
Yep.
I'm going to try and tear that off. There we go. And
temperature of water, what are we going with?
Generally just off the boil, so not crazy boiling hot. There are recipes that use just water at 80 degrees. I think our coffee is probably like fractionally too light roasted to get a really good result with that.
And as a general rule of thumb, would you say for listeners that the lighter your coffee, the hotter you want your water because you want it to work harder to extract it because those lighter roasted coffees are going to be harder to extract?
Yeah, look, I'll probably cop a whole heap of shit for this, but my oversimplified explanation is that the whole thing is about putting energy in, right? And so you can put a lot of energy in the roasting process and take the coffee really dark, and then it takes less energy in the brewing process to get what you want in the cup. Similarly, if you use less energy in the roasting process, it's going to take a little bit more energy or input in there. That could be temperature of water, it could be agitation, it could be grind size. You basically just have to keep doing more.
Yep.
There are limits to that. You can't roast really light and then grind really fine and agitate the hell out of it with superheated water. That's probably not going to taste great. So that's why it's
Balancing out.
Balance.
General
That
rule.
makes sense. General rule.
As Tim kicks off, the paddle also beautiful metal. The scoop
I'm going
also
to try
beautiful
really
metal.
hard not to burn you while
Oh, the old
doing
sitting AeroPress.
Yeah.
This is a world first.
All right, so we're at 150. All right.
Oh,
Two-
close.
248 on the quick pour.
All right. And
Are we going clockwise, anti-clockwise? Are we going the double vortex?
I'm going back and forth.
Oh, the double vortex.
Yeah.
So was that about 5 or 6?
5 or 6? Like as James from Blue Bottle.
Do you want to just
says,
move that back up?
You don't want to boss the coffee around.
Yeah.
You know, and
So
that's
we
our
just
approach
had-
to roasting too. Like we want to work with the coffee. We
Yeah.
want to work harmoniously as much as possible.
So for those listening at home, it was with the paddle fully in and you just wanted to move that coffee around. That was like just 6 gentle back and forths.
Yeah, I'm more interested in saturation than I am in agitation. So I
Yep.
just want to make sure that all of the coffee is involved with all of the water more than I want to get in there and really stir it. We tend to find that lots of agitation, especially with a big wide paddle like this, you end up like pulling out more bitterness and muddiness and losing some of the transparency of the coffee. So, we brew in a similar way on our Mocha Master in the shops, just stirring, just to agitate, just to saturate, but not agitate too much. I'm actually I've popped this in just to stop all the water falling out.
Right.
So that's sort of holding.
You
the coffee
vacuumed it,
close.
yep.
And then
So to stop the water from dripping through, you put the vacuum seal on and that just leaves the water to just fully immersion brew.
yeah, if you on a more well-worn plunger, you can actually put it in more easily and pull it up a little bit, and you get a really effective stop. This one's like
Brand new.
literally brand new first brew, so it's a little stickier. But I'm going to take it out. I'm going to give it a little stir, and then try the seated plunge.
If you can't see this, Tim's holding it quite strongly, quite firmly, and there's no heat transpiring through. So it's
just
perfect.
Just
Yeah, it's
nicely warm.
amazing.
Yeah.
What time frame are we looking at here? Was there
I forgot to start a timer.
but let's say just for our listeners,
I'd be
what
going
should they
like
be looking?
2 to 2.5 minutes.
Okay.
All right. So it's going to get exactly 2.5 minutes. I vibed it.
And what does the second agitation that you just do here? Is that breaking the crust at the top? Is that
No,
what?
everything pretty much settled. It's just to ensure that we've got a fairly even brew bed at the base.
Yep.
So that when we apply gentle pressure like this, and I'm not working super hard, it's almost just the weight of my hands that is
Yep.
pushing the coffee down, that it's an even extraction.
30 seconds for the pull down, do you reckon?
Something like that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Do you remember when we used to make AeroPresses back in the day? You had to have the dome at the end.
Oh, yeah. Which is like the worst.
reason.
Yeah, it's that's what people got, and it's like that's a good coffee. But the idea would be to have a flat bed
Yeah.
because you want the water passing through an even leveled bed.
Thank you.
So for the listeners, I'm going to drink this water real. Oh no, we've got cups there. So for the listeners at home, we went 15 grams of coffee to 250 grams of water. Then we did hot water just off the boil.
Yep.
Filled it up, Then we did 5 to 6 gentle agitations back and forward. Then we let it sit for 2.5 minutes. Then it was, and with that sit, we had the vacuum sealed in, so none is dripping through.
Yep.
Remove that. One more gentle agitation to settle the bed, to get a flat bed, and then it's just the 30-second plunge. That's the recipe.
And then always stir the brew.
Oh, tell us why. Why would you stir the brew?
So my wife just made some coffee just before we came down here today, and she was brewing on the trickle 8 and she brewed it and she went to pour some of my cup and I'm like, oh, did you stir it? And she looked at me like I'd finally crossed the line. Like it was like
it's too much.
She'd been with me in the coffee thing up until now. She's endured a lot over 20 odd years. But I did think for a second today that maybe that was a step too far. But basically why you do it, as I explained to her as well today.
I'm sure she loved it.
She loved it.
Please tell me more.
When you brew, when you just brew straight into a vessel, you kind of end up with layers of strength of coffee. So it's probably not so pronounced in a brew like this, where there's been some manual encouragement of the coffee coming out. But on a Mocha Master or any Fecco, that kind of thing, you end up with like all the heaviest coffee at the bottom and the lightest coffee at the top. So if you don't stir it and you take a little bit of that coffee out and you measure it to measure the extraction, you're like, oh, fuck, this is like way under extracted. I didn't even check if we can swear on this.
You can swear.
Okay. You can do whatever you want.
You might be like, that brew's way off because it's like way under extracted. You just stir it and there's a pretty good chance you're completely on the money. So, yeah, a really important part of
there you go. Much like I know Hoffmann went viral for his stir, don't swirl your espresso. So
he's right on that.
Same applies here.
Absolutely.
You're going to get layers in your filter coffee as well as your espresso.
Well, it's the right colour. So
here we go.
Yeah.
And for those who are listening, check the show notes. We'll get producer Liam to drop that recipe in the show notes. And I would say that, to me, that's pretty similar to what I'd do as well. That's a great recipe that yields awesome results.
Tastes slightly more premium too.
It
Was that brewed in a metal brewer? That's so clear, so clarity.
I mean, for an absolute starting point, to me, that's like pretty drinkable.
Oh, it's super drinkable. You've got like enough body, but then you've got that nice acidity and clarity kind of coming through.
What region in Colombia is this from?
That one's from Wheeler, I believe.
Ah, Wheeler, yeah, nice. Yeah, I love Wheeler. I love Colombian wash. AeroPress.
And you can tell,
we're in the right zone there.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Also one of the only origins I've been to, so hey.
Perfect. Okay.
Yeah, but it's beautiful.
So that leads us pretty clearly into this question. Why do you hate natural coffees? Fieldwork only serves washed. What's your beef?
Naturally processed coffees taste bad.
They taste like process.
They taste a lot like process. Every time someone says to me, but you've got to try this one. I've got to try this one. It doesn't taste like a natural at all. It's like, you know what definitely doesn't taste like a natural? Like a washed coffee. So why don't you try that instead? People do ask me this quite a lot. I had forgotten that my skepticism about naturally processed coffees went back as long as you've reminded me of today. But
because you also hate co-ferments as well, is that the statement?
They're all in the same
basket.
Same
basically.
basket.
Yeah. Look, I just am not a fan of them from a flavour perspective. But I actually don't give a shit what other people do. Like if other people are really into them, that does not bother me in the slightest. I'm probably more enthusiastic about someone who is really into them and is authentically and genuinely into them and loves them and
specialises and then can educate why and what and the nuance. Yeah.
I mean, going to Kirk's shop, it's like his shop smells really different to my shop. It smells really different. Like ours is pretty straight down the line. It's got that really like classic, like modern classic coffee smell. And you go to his place and it's like, wow, it's like this is something different.
Yeah.
and it's pumping. And people love it. And I had a great time there.
Yeah,
and
it's
I
something
got to watch
different,
coffee as well.
and it's something different from everywhere else that's around. So it's an experience that you can have, and it's unapologetically what it is. It's up in lights,
I'm
telling
so
you what
for
it is.
I'm so for it. It's just not what I want to do.
No, I understand 100%, and I agree to a certain extent.
I also love that bit of a peek behind the curtains. Before we started today, I said, now I'm going to ask you, why do you hate natural coffees? Is that okay? And you were like, you asked that, but I might have a bit more diplomatic of an answer. You just came out and just said natural coffees are bad.
Yeah. Well, I said they taste bad.
Yeah. Taste bad.
There's
a difference there. Is that your way of dialing it back? I love
it's
that.
Like I understand the producer side of it. I understand that if you can produce naturally processed coffees, or as we should be calling them, dry processed coffees, because they're no more natural than a washed coffee. If you can produce that and it's a lot easier and you get paid more for it, the last thing you need is some blowhard from Melbourne saying, don't do that. Yeah. And that's definitely not what I'm saying.
And if you have no availability to water to wash the coffee, then that's fine as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and if the water's running off and it's polluting stuff, don't do it. It's fine.
That's it.
Yeah.
Agree 100%.
Now, you talked about working alongside like Square Mile earlier over in London. James Hoffmann was always going to be a superstar. You knew him before he was who he was. You said it was the least surprising thing ever to see him become what he did. Why is that? Yeah. What about him from before he was James Hoffmann said that he would be amazing?
Well, he's always been James Hoffmann. That's the thing. Kirk did ask me, you worked with James really early on, and I was at Square Mile when there were only three of us. I've known James for a long time. Kirk said, that must have been really amazing to see him become what he's become. And I was like, no, that was the least surprising thing ever. James, was going to be vastly successful in whatever he turned his attention and his energy to. And I think we're just really lucky as an industry that he turned his energy to coffee. He's a very bright, insightful guy. He's
incredibly articulate as well. And I think it's an absolute, what you were saying, like it's a gift to the coffee industry that he could articulate the way he has. That Coffee Atlas, for instance, it keeps getting updated. And that's a seminal piece of literature for coffee, really.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, look, it was a really interesting time to work at Square Mile and to work alongside James. And I think the only like detraction from the whole thing is that his focus these days is is mainly consumer and, home education and that kind of thing. And obviously that's the bigger market. What I used to really get a lot out of was him writing about the coffee business and about, acquisitions and these kind of things, and writing some, incredible long form journalism, basically, which he doesn't do anymore. Or if he does it, he doesn't publish it.
He's got a great business brain as well. I mean, Rowan and I got to walk through the Square Mile roastery last year, and we're looking at the boxes and always look at and pick up on the weirdest stuff. I'm like, well, that's a weird box. Well, how does that fivefold work? And then they were like, well, we had to make a specific box, specific bag just to fit through the letterboxes here in the UK.
So it's like an envelope. Amazing.
Yeah, the mailer.
The mailer. It's an actual mailer. It's amazing. And like Rowan and I just like, well, we've got to go about this a bit smarter, don't we?
And I don't know if this was, maybe it wasn't me, maybe it was, but a few weeks ago, I had a hot take that went pretty viral that I stated that 2025 might be the year that home baristas become better than baristas at cafes. With the idea that, you make it how you want it, you know exactly what you want to do to it, the machinery is catching up, all those things. Not 3 weeks later, James Hoffmann releases his latest YouTube of, have we reached the point where the home barista is becoming better than the cafe barista? And I'm like, I don't know. I did drop that video that went pretty viral, but we'll see.
I haven't seen the video.
Yeah.
So what is your take on it? Do you have a definitive feel that it has?
I don't. I think it more so becomes down to a lot of things are starting to align, that there is enough information on the web from people like James Hoffmann teaching you how to get the best out of your coffee. Coffee machines are catching up where it's like you're getting to a point where you can produce really good stuff at home. See, the ability to source and get all these different coffees is becoming easier and easier. So all of these things are kind of coming into it. And then the industry in some areas can be struggling. Obviously, there are cafes that are going to make you amazing coffee. But generally as a whole, I think also when you're at home and you're going, I know I want this dose. I've played around with it.
Yeah.
I know I want this temperature. I know I want my milk steamed exactly like this, and I want it in my favorite cup that's doing that. I think you're getting to a point where that experience, you've put so much into it that it's going to be better than the barista that it's 5 degrees too hot.
Yeah.
It's too cold for you. They're serving it too cold in the way that you don't like it that, oh, they're using a double ristretto when actually I want a double shot. Actually, a double shot in that size of a cup is too much coffee for milk.
Yeah.
So there's so many hard balancing variables that when you make it at home by yourself, you can make it exactly how you want it.
I think the key variable there is time as well. You wouldn't give a barista 15 minutes to prepare a coffee in shop, but you could take half an hour at home. So, you know, the care and the finesse in all of that is available to you.
Yeah. So then what does that leave the role of the cafe as?
Oh, meeting
sommelier.
places, communication, learning about the industry, having a new experience. You're starting to see places like Cocoon in Japan where it's like an omakase, right? Like it's a full tasting board experience. You're seeing places where it's elevating it beyond what the home barista knows and can do. And then also it's a reason to get out of your house and to chat to someone, a place to get coffee, even just chat to the baristas. I used to, as a barista, have so many friends that would come in and just have like 30-minute chats with me behind the machine. I mean, I was standing there dying, making a million coffees, like, oh my God. But, you know, still some of them are like lifelong friends and people that you know.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's one of those truisms that we've veered away from or that we've failed to internalize is that, you know, a really great coffee bar is where you check in with your neighborhood. Like that's a real touch point for a pocket of a community.
The third place theory.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And we became really fixated on the beverage alone as if the 3 degrees difference was going to be in the milk temperature was going to be the make or break for like whether this was the right place.
Yeah. When actually it's like, do I remember your sister-in-law's name?
Absolutely.
Yeah. That time you went to Geelong together.
Yeah.
I haven't been there, but when my partner used to live out further north, is it Outer Circle?
Oh, yeah, your favourite joint,
in Fairfield.
Yeah, in Fairfield. It was right around the corner, and it's like everything they do there is good. But I'm not saying like, you're not like, oh my God, this standout place. But the staff, like within like going there 2 times, he was like, oh, hey mate, good to see this. And I was like, I just loved going there. And he just knew who you were, instantly remembered you, knew what your order was, knew what you'd been up to. If you told him something in passing, like, what's on today? And you'd say it. The next time you're in, you'd be like, how did that thing go?
Yeah. That guy is fucking hilarious, by the way.
Yeah,
I don't know if
amazing.
you've seen he's got like a footy tipping competition. And if you win a free coffee, like you can win a free coffee each week, whatever, but you have to claim it with this novelty check.
You have to come in with the giant check.
That's awesome. There's like $4.50 on it.
Yeah,
that's so good.
I think that guy's really on the money with stuff. And that's like, I think that's a good example of, you know, and you all know this from working alongside me and that kind of thing. Like that is about as far away from what one of my coffee shops would ever be. But that is so authentically his shop in his way. And that's the kind of thing that I'm like, I'm so there.
I'm bought in. It's
absolutely.
great.
Absolutely.
And it's probably the hardest thing in the world to scale as well. And that's what makes it so special, is that no one can just cut and paste that Justin guy in another shop.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the final thing that I will say about coffee shops where you're saying what becomes the role of them, I think coffee shops know that people are now going to be brewing more coffee than ever at home and help educate, help guide. Do you know, I spend countless hours sitting in my DMs helping people dial in their coffee. And some, not even our coffee.
Yeah.
Just being like, no, you need to do this. You got to change your grind size. Look at this variable here. And like they're sending me videos of their extraction and this and that. If you're going to be a coffee shop that's selling beans, sell to the home brewer, have the easy guidance for them, make some crappy videos. They don't have to be great, that teaches them how to do espresso with your coffee at home, that teaches them filter, that teaches that. And maybe have a thing once a week where you have like
workshops.
a workshop Baristas come in. Today we're doing V60, we're doing AeroPress, we're doing whatever.
Yeah.
Well, that magical place you talk about is actually in the wings for the Rumble Boys. So they're doing, they're doing like a concept retail forward shop in North Melbourne that's about to happen soon. So everything Rowan was just talking about is their MO for the business.
Yeah.
Smart.
Yep.
Yeah.
I can see that working very well.
Yeah, especially in that area, high density, a lot of people, young, professional.
Yeah. When I worked with Intelligentsia in LA, we had a whole section of the shop that was just a coffee education section. And it was sort of like the Genius Bar. And there was a phone on the counter that was like the coffee hotline. And it was like in the phone book, like 1-800-COFFEE. That wasn't the actual number, it was whatever the American version of that is.
Yeah.
But, and you could call that, and it was either Chris or Melissa would be working at that section of the shop, and they'd chat to you
That's awesome.
about whatever questions you had. Or you could bring your home espresso machine in and book a session with Chris or with Melissa and learn how to use it. And we sold so much coffee.
Yeah.
Like ridiculous amounts of coffee.
And to those roasteries, it's very easy when people want to come at you and complain and be like, oh, your coffee's crap, this is terrible, like whatever it is. Just be like, stay calm and just know that 99% of people don't know what they're doing at home. And I've had so many people come to me like aggressively.
Interesting.
Like, about our coffee, like, you said it was going to be this is crap, this is the worst tasting thing, this is that. And I sit and I go, hey, let me help you out. I'm so sorry. Also, here's a free coffee, or here's 20% off your next one. So you're not wasting all the coffee. But then I'll just go through with them step by step and I'll be like, oh, you're using the pressurized basket that comes with the machine.
Okay.
You need to, I can see their shot is foamy. I'm like, you need to use a single wall. And they're like, I've had this machine for 8 years and I've used the pressurized basket the entire time. They're like, this is the best coffee I've ever made with this machine and you've changed my world.
Yeah.
And now one of them has been a subscriber now for 2 years straight. Going from someone who was yelling at me to now.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because unlike wine, which is where the analogy always goes, right? Unlike wine.
Wine's delivered made.
You're just like.
Pop it.
Well, yeah. That was a screw top,
Yeah.
by the way, if you can tell. And then you pour it into the glass, right? There's like, I get it. You could aerate it. You do all this stuff.
Temperature and maybe aeration is what you can control.
Storage,
but it should taste
but
good
it's
out of
going
the
to
bottle.
taste pretty close. Like, and yet we're more like a butcher selling different cuts of meat to people. And it's like, without being able to give that like level of guidance, and that level of guidance you have in a great butcher shop. Like if you take home a bunch of lamb shanks to like flash fry and serve medium rare, like, it's going to be absolutely inedible. And it's the same thing, like if people are buying our filter roasts and going home, chucking them through a Breville machine, it's like, I don't think that's going to taste great. So it's that
User error
for sure. And then definitely on the roaster, as you were saying, like on the responsibility on the roaster to
educate
and to ask the right questions. But fuck, we're bad at like asking the right questions at the retail shelf. It's something we train our staff in a lot.
I think a lot of people overassume the average consumer as well. They're just like, they think they've got the same education level as us. They're like, oh yeah, they're the exact same. They'll know exactly what to do with this.
And the coffee industry has done a really good job at alienating customers for the last 2 decades, so that customers come in and they're like apologizing already.
Yeah.
So we have really particular ways that we get people to ask about how people brew coffee. So, one thing we don't say, or we try and educate our staff not to say, is like what coffee machine do you have?
Oh,
because
really?
it's like if we say it like that as the first thing, every customer is like, it's not
just
very good.
it's
It's terrible.
it's
It's
not very
you know. And it's like, we've got to ask this in a way where we're not initially getting people onto the back foot. Like, we've really got to make sure that these people know that we're on their side.
Yeah.
And
So what do you open with? Like, do you pressure profile?
We're like, do you have a
Do you
photo
have
of you
mineral
set up?
drops?
We try and go in a much like lighter touch.
How do you brew your coffee at home? Yeah.
Absolutely. We just had a new staff member start with us. She's just moved here from London. She works at one of my favourite shops in London previously. And, one of her questions was like, if somebody wants milk in their filter coffee, like, do we discourage it? I said, no. You got to really like develop a relationship with someone, with that customer, before you start telling them how to drink the drink they've been drinking for 20 years or whatever it might be. So
the long weekender, the filter coffee with milk.
Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
All right, okay. I'm unfamiliar.
Officially or in your mind?
No, it's official, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Long weekender. All right.
Yeah.
Look it up in Urban Dictionary.
Okay.
So in that, you've got Australia, you've got Fieldwork going now, you've been in London, you've been in Intelligentsia in the US. What is the biggest difference between all of those coffee cities and their coffee culture?
Oh, yeah. I just had a moment where I answered that really honestly and then
Oh,
thought,
come
how am I
on.
going to do that?
Come on, you can.
Look, I think the truth is that Los Angeles is an incredible coffee city. There's amazing, amazing coffee all across LA. And yet in Australia, if you say to people, oh, yeah, I worked in coffee in America, that must have been terrible and stuff. It's like, you've got no idea. No, It's amazing. Look, I think Melbourne got to a really good standard pretty early on. And I think we've been congratulating ourselves pretty enthusiastically since then. London blew up really quickly and is now consolidating and sort of rationalising a bit. And I think it's being taken over by more of the big business. And LA is just like on the up. Back there next month to do a few bits and pieces, and it'll be really interesting to see how it's changed in the last 2 years. But look, I think a healthy dose of like international awareness would really benefit the Australian coffee scene.
Agreed. And Liam, just a quick question. The pod that we recorded previously, is that coming out after this one?
Before this one.
It's coming out before? Okay. So my hot take last week was that Melbourne runs the risk of becoming the next Italy with espresso or with coffee, because Italy kind of like rested on its laurels. It was like, yeah, we mastered it. We did it. It's the best. And Melbourne, I feel like, is running the risk of having that. Do you agree?
I would say we're probably there right now.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We're past it. We need to catch up.
I think so.
Is there a beacon of light, or is there someone helping change that? Or?
Look, I am actually in the process of
For those listening, I just danced around with my arms in the air.
I have been writing and rewriting an article for about 2 months now. Postulating the idea that 2025 could be the year that coffee breaks. And by that, I mean that we have an unparalleled change in input costs in terms of the C market being
Volatile.
near or at $4 a pound. And what Australia seems incapable of doing is really stratifying pricing on coffee itself. We can stratify the experience. If you come and sit down and we brew you a flight of 9 different coffees, like they might not actually be great coffees, but we can price that experience appropriately. But to get espresso with milk of a very similar size, you can go to Market Lane and pay, I think like $6.50, and then you can go to the worst fucking fish and chip shop with beans that are like stuck to the inside of the hopper.
Oh, they smell fishy. There's oil seeping out.
They probably
of
smelled
them.
fishy before they got to the fish and chip shop.
before the fish and chip shop.
And that's $5.50. We are not good at being able to get pricing to a point that reflects the quality. And I think a lot of that is based upon the fact that as coffee roasters and as coffee people, we're pricing everything based on input, like the raw cost, the amount of effort, how much narrative there is behind it. But our consumer base is pricing everything based on function. Mm-hmm. And, it's part of what made coffee, so notable in Australia, especially in Melbourne, that, you could and should and would get 2 really delicious cups of coffee out in a cafe and change from $10, every day.
Yep.
And that got us to this point, but it's not going to get us any further because it's like so entrenched now as a birthright for Australian coffee drinkers that it's
a $4 coffee, yeah.
It's a massive limiting factor. So something's going to give. It's going to break. And I'm actually almost hopeful that this is the year and that the green coffee crisis around pricing is what gets us there. To say, you know what? The good stuff is expensive. The average stuff is cheap. It'll always be there, but we're breaking away and we're sort of doing it incrementally, you know, with every 6 months another 25-cent price rise. But that's just not enough.
So with what you've been working on, like what is the right price going forward?
Whatever the market will bear.
Yeah. But if you're saying that it needs to get to a certain price, is it $8? Is it $10?
I think I don't know, okay. And then that will probably change.
Depending on next
really
harvest,
but also it shouldn't be one price.
Yeah,
you know, the experience at Market Lane, and I use Market Lane as an example because that's where I go very frequently. Because I think they do a great job. They mainly buy washed coffees. Which is
First friend of the show.
Yeah, so I really like going to Market Lane. What they do in the environment that they do should not cost the same as, you know, some cowboys down the road making cowboy coffee. Making cowboy coffee.
Yeah. It's the big
and the thing is, I think when we adopt the mentality to say $9 is the correct price, well, everybody will start
Joey
charging. Bag of donuts is going to come and be like, great, $9. Like, we've given permission, but helping to understand like
why it's $9 is more important.
I think so. Yeah.
All right. With all these factors,
that's heavy. That got heavy.
No, that's great. This is the type of chats we want to be having. And with all those factors coming in and looking at, you know, Melbourne and whether that's struggling, we've got the director of the World AeroPress Championship here. Can you tell us your top 3 coffee cities in the world?
I can. Yeah. So right now, if I could transport to anywhere to drink coffee, the 3 cities I would transport to are Oslo. I still think Tim Windabo is the best roaster in the world, and his shop is just a beautiful place to drink coffee, and Oslo is pretty cool. So
you can also go to Fuglin in Tokyo. Are they still using Windabo?
They roast for themselves, they roast on the old Tim Windabo roaster as well.
So you can get the half version.
Yeah, potentially. But also you can tour the Tim Windabo roastery. So I would go and do that and, you know, get a bit more insight into how they make it all happen. So I think Oslo is an incredible coffee city, led 100% by Tim. Copenhagen is really good as well.
True, yeah.
The
Coffee Collective.
Coffee Collective guys do a really good job, and now Noma have their own coffee operation just started up recently.
Noma, best restaurant in the world.
Best restaurant in the world. They were our first customer when they had their pop-up here in Sydney. And so I would go there, and it's really hard to decide between Seoul and LA as my third.
Pick one.
I'm going to both next month, and I'll let you know then. No, I'm going to say LA because I haven't seen what's been happening there as recently.
So Melbourne doesn't even make the top 3. Does it make the top 5?
Does Melbourne make the top 5? There's a really good average of coffee in Melbourne.
So no.
Top 5. It'd be there or thereabouts in the top 5.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're just holding on, Melbourne. Come on. Yeah. We've got to boost that up.
A lot of light roasted nations there.
Yeah, for sure.
Speaks to your palate.
I think so. Like, we tend to prize coffee that has a real sense of place, time and place. So heavily roasted, heavily fermented, we try and stay away from.
Yep, fair enough.
Whew. I mean, if it wasn't getting hot already, I think it's time for an extra hot take with 2 sugars. Now, this has been a bloody great pod, and we've been cranking on. We're going long. So we're just going, do you have a great hot take, or should we just do one hot take today from our guest?
Just one from the guest.
Let's just do one hot take from our guest. Have you got one locked and loaded?
He's got several, I reckon.
I've got, yeah.
He's like, which one's going to get me the least in trouble? Go for the trouble. Push some buttons.
I would say that as much as people don't want to hear it, the amount of coffee businesses that we lost during COVID will seem insignificant compared to how many we're going to lose over the next probably 6 to 8 months. Just places going out of business. We will clutch our pearls and lament the tragedy of it. But there are a lot of businesses out there that are operating really poorly.
Yep.
Just poor management and, failing to get good at doing the boring stuff. And I think they'll just call time.
What are the major causes here that we're talking about for this?
Crack a fucking spreadsheet at some point. You can't just knock around on vibe and make it all work. You do need to plan. You are a responsible. If you're going to be a responsible employer, you owe your employees super. You owe the tax department what you owe them.
Pay your work cover.
Yeah. You got to be.
It's all those little
across
things that if you're not across it, just come up. But I mean, obviously we're coming across a challenging time. And so this is the time where it's like you're not, as you said, just getting passed on vibes now and paying people under the table and that. It's like with the times being harder, more diligence needs to be put in to run that cafe.
Yeah,
You've just got a fly flying around.
Sorry. I'm not going to make you overstretch or overreach, but do you think that's a global thing that'll happen or just mainly in the Australia, New Zealand sort of area?
I'm probably more acutely aware of it locally.
Yep.
This fly just is in love with you.
Persistent one. I'm probably more aware of it locally. I'm not too sure what the economics are like elsewhere.
Yeah, that's fair enough. It was a big reach from me.
Yeah.
Oh, right. Oh, and there goes. This is why we don't have
Reach and
Sonam on the
punch.
pod too much. Jesus Christ. He's just spilling stuff everywhere. There's water flying in. But
That makes
that's
a good
okay
barrier.
because we're running towards the end of the podcast and everything he spilled it on is metal and by AeroPress and can just be cleaned up.
Yeah.
Now, for the people that are in Melbourne, where can they find you? And who can buy your coffee, I'm assuming, Australia-wide, nationally? What are we talking?
Australia-wide, yeah.
Australia-wide?
So we've got our little roastery and one coffee shop just here in North Fitzroy on St George's Road. We sell online through fieldworkcoffee.com.au. And then we've got a tiny little coffee bar on De Grave Street in the city as well.
And then where can people find the World AeroPress Championship?
Yeah, World AeroPress Championship.com.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, at aero.press on Instagram is the best place to hit us up.
And when you finish this amazing article, where would we be able to read that?
That's the thing. I don't really know.
Don't have an outlet?
I used to do a bit of writing for Broadsheet every now and then, but this might be a little spicy
Sprudge,
for them.
maybe?
Won't be on Sprudge, I guarantee you that.
Okay, fair enough. Do you need to come in here and give it to Liam?
Potentially, yeah.
We do a video in here.
You can do an audiobook.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, look, I think there's a lot of stuff that isn't that fun to talk about in coffee and
Has to be talked about, though.
yeah, people I think are shying away from it a bit. So, I'll write the stuff up and we'll see where it ends up.
Yeah, awesome. Look, we're happy to get you back in. I mean, I think, what did we get to? Close to 90 minutes, and we probably only just scratched the surface on a few things.
Absolutely. I felt like we could have gone on for days.
Yeah, I'm upset I didn't get to bring up some old photos, but hey.
Hey, save it for next time.
We'll have to crack the hard drives.
Well, again, thank you guys for listening. If you're on your phone right now, make sure to hit the subscribe. I know that sounds like a boring thing to do, but it helps us so much if you're enjoying the content. And you know what? If you're not enjoying it, don't hit do it anyway. Just do it. Just do it, even if you hate us. Just click it because it really helps us out there. You can reach out to us with your hot takes. If you want to see certain guests on the show, whatever you want, reach out to us at hello@itsjustcoffeepod.com or on the socials at It's Just Coffee Podcast. What else do we have going on? Oh, if you want to try some of your golden brown coffee, we've got a discount code, IJC15. Is that right?
IJC Pod, all caps,
Sorry.
15. Yep.
Because I screwed that up, we'll say it one more time, IGC Pod 15 for 15% off. And we don't do sales like that for others. This is just for the pod.
Yeah, we've stopped doing sales altogether at Golden Brown, so get in while you can.
Yeah.
Yeah, the coffee price is far too volatile.
That's Sonam whipping out the spreadsheet and being like, oh my
good.
God, what are we doing here? So someone's being a responsible adult and doing that.
I'd also just like to thank Tim, and I just think anybody that's got the chance to get down to Fieldwork and talk to Tim is an amazing resource and someone that's done so much in the coffee industry for so long.
Yeah.
It really needs to be commended, and also still have the energy to keep going. That's impressive, mate.
Oh, thank you.
Well done.
Yeah, some days I'm not as sure about it, but
If you're telling your wife to stir the coffee, you're still in it.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you for joining us,
Thank you.
Tim. As you know, I'm Rowan Cook.
I'm Sonam Sherpa.
And it's
just
just coffee. Sonam's It's Just Coffee. It's just coffee.